WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. I'm going to have some Betty Boop scratch-off tickets to give away. I have one right here. Actually, it's two. It's a pink one and a blue. It looks like one, but it's two. We're going to be giving these away. Conrad's Crabs on Wednesday, doing the Maryland Crab Cake Tour, presented by the Maryland Lottery, as well as our friends at Goodwill Industries. And I was cleaning all weekend, doing some spring cleaning. And our friends at Window Nation as well, who have stepped up to give us a proud new sponsor around here. I got a guy that's been a sponsor for a long, long time. You can hear him on Thursday before the draft from 3 until 5 o'clock. Dennis Koulatsos joins us now, the Sunday Sports Voice, and of course heard on Thursdays and at D. Koulatsos Show, as well as at Coons Baltimore Ford. This is your sort of high holy holiday, and I don't just mean Greek Easter here in the remnants of all of that. You're a draft guy from the beginning, right? Like this was one of the fun entrees for you. I don't dare I say when the team came in '96. I don't know. You and I've talked a whole lot about this, but when the team came, one of the first things I said was, they're going to have 2 draft picks in the first round because they had dealt out. And I met Phil Savage and Ozzie Newsome at the old North Star restaurant out on the road to Westminster, out 140. They had the first ever draft event at a restaurant there. It was a little luncheon. It was kind of like a Skipjack's luncheon. And I met Phil Savage there that day. And I expressed interest in the draft, and he had never met a reporter that had any interest in the draft. And from that moment forward, the Mel Kiper books, the Bushbaum books, the draft was sort of how we cut our teeth around here. 97, 98, 99, 2000. We were the station, we were the place that did the draft better than anyone because we understood this was the lifeblood of the organization, and it turned out to be.
Yeah, the draft, I believe, started with 17 rounds, and then it went to 10. And now it's down to 7 rounds. So we've been around for a long time mocking the draft before it was popular to mock the draft. Now, of course, with all the mock draft simulators, everybody's an expert. Everybody has a mock draft, 1.0, 2.0, 17.0, you name it, Ness. So it's out there. But Phil Savage is a good man. I have his book. It's 4th and Goal every day. It's right on my desk. A lot of insight about Alabama's program and Nick Saban. But Phil is a fantastic guy. Was involved with the Senior Bowl for many, many years. But the information that's out there, Ness, it's incredible. But I still go back to watching game film. I believe my eyes. I'm gonna put a whole lot of stock in the NFL Combine, but I like productive, available people, and if the Ravens are smart, that's what they'll do. They'll draft productive, available players.
Well, they reach every year on something, right? I mean, was the guy last year, right? They reached on Lamar. No one else wanted Lamar. They took a chance on Lamar, and they built things around Lamar after drafting Hayden Hurst, right? And they've done well with these middle-round picks. Not to say that guys are going to the Hall of Fame, but this is a year more so, and I haven't done the power rankings of what every pick is worth, in that way. Yeah. But I would say this year, I think they have more firepower than maybe they've ever had, given how many picks they have, how high they are in the top 120, 140, and the fact that they're picking 14th and not 26th or 22nd or 28th or wherever they traditionally have picked as a playoff team most years or like that. That this year, they have the potential to have more firepower. Now, this draft is, I hear year after year, this is a good draft, this is a bad draft. This is getting down to the weird time because we're getting into that COVID area, right? Where a lot of guys had weird tape the last couple of years based on where they played, based on how much they played, all of that, that this is where the expertise of the Ravens organization and having done things the same way for 3 decades, this should really benefit them. They should be able to find good football players here this weekend.
They should be. They are saying, right, whoever they may be, that this is a deep draft because of COVID. There are a lot of 23-year-old players out there versus 22 years old. They have an extra year worth of experience. They're older. They're more mature. But a cautionary tale here, and that's a few years ago, the Ravens had, I believe, 4 fourth-round draft picks, and the most notable was Ken Dixon, right? He flashed for a minute. So 4th-round draft picks, there's some meat there, but they're not going to be difference makers. They're not going to be your playmakers. You've got to hit in day 1 and day 2 of the draft. Ravens have, of course, the 1st, 2nd, and 2/3. Those first 4 players, Nestor, that's where I'm going to put my emphasis on, because anytime you drop below that, I mean, it's a crapshoot. It's 50-50. Maybe it's 25-75 against those players being on a roster 3 or 4 years later. So they really have to hit in the day 1 and day 2 picks.
For you with this 14 and with the amount of needs they have and knowing cornerback may be thinner than you think based on injury. Left tackle clearly is huge purple question mark, violet question mark, more than a purple question mark, given the money, given where they are and what they're trying to do for Lamar and put around Lamar, and knowing there's going to come a point where Lamar's got a nice cap number this year that it's going to become exponential next year, keeping him around here, and where they're going to be with Dobbins and the other running backs. They've worked out all these running backs that maybe take a running back in that middle range of all the picks that they have. They're going to come out of this with an offensive lineman. They're going to come out of it with somebody in the secondary. They're going to come out of it with somebody on the D line. Those are the three biggest needs that I see that they're going to have those kind of football players, but I'm wondering in what order they go in and how this board stacks up, because 14 is going to be about quarterbacks. It's going to be about choices and decisions. And the more we hear everyone wanting to back up, the Ravens are a team that could go from 14 to 8 to get a player that they may see as second best in the whole draft. They'll have that kind of firepower to be able to do that if they want to do that.
Yeah.
So that's another, as much as we sit here and evaluate this at 14, we could say the Ravens could deal a 1, a 2, and a 4 and move up 6 spots. And if they do that, they wind up drafting someone that they really put the gold star on, right? Like if they were to ever move up and get a blue chip guy, because every one of these drafts, they say, well, there's 6 or 8 blue chip guys. Then there's that separation after 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 where we think these are Hall of Fame potential players, and these are just guys we take a chance on. If you can go from somebody that's top 5, 6, 7 on your board, and that guy's still there at 8, 9, 10, 11, I wouldn't fall asleep on the draft at 9 o'clock on Thursday night, because the Ravens are, if they see the right player and they see a Suggs, a Lewis, a Reed, a player that they see as blue chippy, that somebody else has made a bad read on, which it happens, I wouldn't stand pat that they'll pick at 14.
Yeah, the unique thing about the Ravens, Nestor, is they have their own draft board. They rank their players accordingly. They don't use a national scouting service like the other NFL teams do. They march the beat of their own drummers. So who knows who they value top 5, top 10. But to your point, they have so many needs, and in every draft there are about 16, 17 players that are difference makers. So they're in a sweet spot. So is it going to be Jordan Davis, a monstrous defensive tackle out of Georgia? And if we love Haloti Ngata, I mean, this guy, his measurables are through the roof. He is the Calvin Johnson in terms of measurables for defensive linemen. I mean, the guy tested out so well in the combine and had a stellar career at Georgia, freed up. I mean, he eats up 2 gaps, and those kind of guys are rare. You just can't move him. That's my guy. I hope he's there at 14.
There aren't a lot of mocks that had him still there at 14 that I've seen. Now, there's so many mocks to be seen.
There's a ton of mocks. But again, is he a 2-trick pony? Is he a 3-down lineman? That's the big question about him. But there's defensive backs. If this Stingley kid from LSU, if he's there at 14, do they, to your point, go after defensive backs?
But to your point, it doesn't need to be 14. They haven't picked in the top 10 in 20 years, right? Like, well, they picked Ronnie Stanley, right? But they don't pick in the top 10. So a chance to have, if he's their number 2 player on the board, and he's sitting there at 9.
Yes.
10.
You can make the case.
9 or the 10 wants to back up. The 8, the 9, the 10. So teams want to back up. Not a lot of teams have the firepower to move up. All of these teams that have dealt out of the first round,
yes,
right? Already that they've done that if there's a chance, this is the year you can get a top 5 player if you're the Ravens. You can get one of your top 5 guys, a guy you think's going to the Hall of Very Good, that sitting back at 14 and letting the draft come to you. DeCosta may talk about that, but if they get the right player, I could see them making a move.
There's also tape of Derek Stingley Jr. going up against one Jamar Chase at LSU during practice, right? And he handled him pretty well. He would be a great fit in the division, as Jamar Chase torched the Ravens in both games that they played in. So you got to have a guy that takes him out of the game, because right now I don't think Marcus Peters can do it, and I don't think Marlon Humphrey can do it. So that also makes all the sense in the world. to turn in the draft card for Derek Stingley Jr. But I'd rather have quality like you. I'd rather see them draft quality than quantity. Like you said, go up and get the player, get the dude, get the future Hall of Famer if that's how you value him. I'm not big on volume. I know Eric DeCosta likes volume. I'll take quality. Give me the guy, right? Step up and get him.
Well, I think that listen, I like quantity too, and I know why Eric speaks to that when he loads up these drafts to get players. But I also know it's a different gig when you're at 23 or 24, 25, 20, pick any of those places, and you're looking at the players and you just know the 12 best guys are gone. That you're just not getting the 12th best player may go 16th or 18th, but you're not dealing up to get him anyway, right? So when you sit back there, you don't have the options that you have where they are right now in a year when you're blessed with all the extra firepower. That's what I'm saying. So there's not often that they get to look at the top 5, top 8 players on the board, and for 4 months can fantasize that guy might drop. That's a guy we like because of position, because of this, because he's a safety in Ed Reed's case, nobody wants him, or because he's a defensive lineman like Haloti Ngata, he dropped a little bit. I'm open to anything this weekend, but I'm always, especially with this side of the team, the draft side, the talent evaluation, knowing Ozzy's still a part of this, even though they don't talk about it, Ozzy's still working. Ozzy still comes to work. He doesn't know anything else. So all of the eyeballs, all their hundreds of years of doing this, that should play into a huge factor this week for them, specifically in this draft because of the way it's assembled, the way COVID's been the last couple of years, and the way that they do their business. I have high confidence in them, but also high expectations that they should come out of this smelling good.
You can also bet there'll be an Alabama player on the Ravens roster from this draft. You can bet that there'll be a Michigan player or two on the Ravens roster from
now,
this draft.
Njoku's interesting, right? In that 45 pick. Now I don't know if he's still there or not.
Yeah,
but that's somebody's going to take a gander, and it's not somebody with just number one that thinks the kid can't play this year. You don't want to use a one on a kid you can't play.
But do you package a fourth or maybe 2 fourths and your second team up to get him? I would, because the guy would have been a top 15 player had he been healthy, and he's going to be healthy at some point. And he played for Mike McDonald, so I do think that's a fantastic pick, and I do think there's a guy worth moving up on the second round to get, because now you're coming away with 2 first-round draft picks for the price of 1.
Well, when a guy gets hurt like that, it's really hard to evaluate exactly where he's going to go. I mean, that's the hardest part of the draft in general, is where these quarterbacks fit in and where needs fit in, and where all of a sudden a guy runs a bad 40 time like Orlando Brown and drops out of sight when all the magazines had him, going in the middle of the first round, end of the first round. Not everybody's going to be that guy, but in this particular case, here's a universally, much like Anthony Poindexter 20 years ago, to put a little history into it, universally thought to not just be a first round guy, to be a top half of the first round guy, and what that kind of injury does on his value and what kind of payday he'll eventually get, and what kind of a team that's going to not just take a chance on him, but wait. The waiting part of, we want the goal, we want it right. And we're still waiting on Sergio Kindle around here, right?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, there's a name for us. But, well, the good thing about Ojabo is that it's an Achilles. It's not a knee. He didn't tear up ligaments. He's a young person, so he should be able to recover and in a fair amount of time. Cam Akers tore his Achilles preseason last year for the running back for the Rams. Came back and actually played in the playoffs and also in the Super Bowl. Mike McDonald, I'm sure he's going to influence those picks. He was there, right? He was there on that Michigan defense, and that was a very good defense with some very good players. So if they can translate into his scheme, he's going to play a 2 safety system versus the aggressive scheme that Wink employed. It'll be more of a bend, don't break type of a defense. And the other thing about this defense is you need a strong nose tackle, a guy that what they call the spine, right? And so this is where Jordan Davis for me fits in perfectly for this scheme. He can line up on the nose of the center. He can take care of both of those gaps. They have to be strong up the middle. So they also have to come up with a strong middle linebacker as well, Ness.
Dennis Koulatsos is here. He is evaluating and will continue to do so on Thursday, as well as out on the internet at D. Koulatsos Show. He'll be here Thursday from 3 until 5 at AM 1570, as well as Sunday morning, getting you ready for the Thursday night draft. He and I were talking value of Lamar Jackson. You can hear that out on our YouTube channel, as well as out at Baltimore Positive on his program last week. And, I guess sitting behind all of this is the fact that Lamar is here. The amount of money it's going to take to sign him, that goes without unspoken, but what kind of help are you getting him this week? We talked so much about nose tackle and defense and rushing the quarterback and who's going to play off the ball and are we going to go get that cornerback Stingley? Lamar's like, well, what are you doing for me? Where's my Marshall Yanda? Who's going to play center around? Who's going to be the right tackle? Who's going to run the football? And so, I saw Pat Ricard speak last week, and I know where they want this offense to be. It is amazing to me, Dan, the more I talk to fans, okay, maybe people like you, but some of my friends are doing the show or whatever, how Greg Roman has become the village idiot all of a sudden, right? I had somebody say, well, they brought Deebo Samuel in. Greg Roman probably wouldn't know what to do with him. And I'm thinking, do you watch football? I mean, you could be down on Greg Roman if you want, but if you're down on Greg Roman based on what happened last year when they didn't have any football players, it's insane. Greg Roman ran the offense pretty well. He's got John's confidence. I know they needed to run somebody out of here last year after the 6 games that they lost to end the year. But the notion that Greg Roman's gotten dumb all of a sudden with the fan base, that Lamar needs something else. I don't know. Lamar needs to throw the ball better. Lamar needs a running game. Lamar needs to duck and slide more. Lamar needs to hand the ball off more. Lamar needs to run less.
Lamar needs an offensive line. That's what Lamar needs. And look, if the offense doesn't take another step forward, Nestor, I don't believe Greg Roman will be here next year, because the thing about them is, yes, they won. Yes, they ran the ball effectively. They set records. But they haven't done a lot of damage in the playoffs, and that's what it's all about. And my concern about Lamar Jackson is the way they've used him. They put the most explosive player in NFL history in the box instead of spreading out the field and letting him use his immense talents. And that's my gripe with Greg. I'd like to see more of a balanced offense. I don't want to see 80% run, 20% pass. This isn't 1976, and we're watching the Oklahoma Sooners. The game has changed to favor the offense.
But when you can run like that, now I'll say this. I don't disagree with what you're saying, and I don't mean to be argumentative on it, but when you're running 8 yards on first down every play and wearing teams, they did that for a whole year. I mean, I've never seen it other than in the little medal game.
But you're not doing that in the playoffs. You're not doing that when you're facing defenses like Tennessee and Buffalo. It doesn't translate real well. You have to have more balance about your offense, and that's been my biggest beef with Greg Roman's offense, is that take advantage of the mercurial talents of one Lamar Jackson. But I believe they're going to get him 2 offensive linemen in the draft. They're going to get him a running back, and they're going to get him a tight end. I see four offensive players, Nestor, and 6 for the defense. That's my breakdown for this year's draft. If they don't trade.
If they're bringing in 10 players, for sure. Dennis Koulatsos is here. He will be talking more and more draft on Thursday, getting you ready for the big draft night. Anything you want to say on the Adam Jones thing? Because we talk a lot of football here. And look, I'm always the guy taking cheap shots at the Orioles because,
I'm going to say that he's in good company if they're not inviting him to things. He can join you and a host of other fine people in the metro area and beyond, not affiliated with the Orioles anymore. So, look, a fish stinks from the head down, and that's the way it is. It's what do you expect from this organization? What more do you expect in terms of disrespecting the fan base, players, media, etc.?
I told this story. I'm going to tell it again because Adam Jones brought this up on our competitor with former employees of mine. But I ran into Adam Jones. The only time I've really talked to him, I ran into him once in a skybox at a Ravens game, but he was hammered. He doesn't remember running into me. We got a picture. One eye's going this way. One eye. It was late in the day. It was one of the charity events. So I've only had one really sober conversation with Adam Jones in my life, and it's because he recognized me. I was on the field at Citi Field in 2013. It was July of 2013. It was the All-Star game. I'm still credentialed by Major League Baseball, but not the Orioles. Go figure that out. There might come a point where I'm credentialed by the NFL and not the Ravens, but that's another. We'll play that one out.
It's a Baltimore thing.
but not, yeah, well, it's a fear, it's an ownership fear thing of like having someone actually tell the truth and hold them accountable for all of it for 30 years. But with the Orioles, Adam Jones is playing catch out on the field before the game. It was All-Star Game Day, not the workout day. It was the actual game, and I was out there early in the day, and the AL had its workout, and they're throwing balls, and I'm literally down by the cage on the field, and he's playing catch. I think it was with J.J. Hardy, and he looks at me, recognized me, and says, "Hey man, what are you doing here?" And I said, "Still credentialed by Major League Baseball." So he's playing catch with J.J. Hardy, and he says to me, "Hey dude, why does the old man hate you so much?" And he's playing catch. And he expects me to answer that on the field in 45 seconds in some nice, happy package. I pooped on his desk. Something. I said something bad about it. It wasn't about that. So I went to Tahiti with my wife on our 10th anniversary, and I came back. And she got cancer about 6 months later. In that 6 month period of time, I had published Purple Rain 2. It was already out. I was signing them, doing my thing, and I was in a writing mood. I wrote 500 pages on Purple Rain. I'm like, I'm going to take on the Orioles for Adam Jones. I'm going to write a book for Adam Jones to answer that question. Why does the old man hate you so much? So I wrote the Peter Principles. I literally took 6 months of my life until the point when my wife got sick. Then she got better, and I kind of cleaned it up, and I released it. 12 chapters. They're out there. But I wrote that for Adam Jones, and I guess my point was in writing it that in the end, they do this to everyone. John Miller, Frank Wren, Frank Robinson, Brooks Robinson. I don't know if there's any other, Mrs. Robinson, Eddie Robinsons, Cal Ripken. Across 30 years, there's been a more than a trend. I mean, it's left a vapor trail of how people get treated. Go ask Mike Bordick. Go see B.J. Surhoff. Go ask any of these people how they were treated. Go see Sam Perlazzo. Go see any of these people and ask how they were treated. Leo Mazzoni, any of these people. And in the end, I wrote this for Adam Jones, and now here we are 10 years later, and he's made $100 million, did everything they asked him to do, and he still finds himself with his nose pressed up against the glass trying to figure out why bad, cruel people do bad, cruel things and who they are. And I've only witnessed it for 30 years, but in the case of Adam Jones, I'm shocked, but I'm not. I'm a little shocked that he's being mouthy about it or mouthing off of it. Like
I'm
that.
not.
You're not? Okay.
No, his father-in-law is Gene Fugit. Gene Fugit, if you
course.
recall, played a tight end for the Washington Redskins and the Dallas Cowboys. And he told me all about Adam. He's also a customer of Coons Ford. And he says Adam, when he played for the Orioles, used to walk around the house with his bat in his hand. He just loves baseball. The man is passionate about baseball. Love the team. Love Baltimore. And it's just sad that it's gone down this way with him as well. It just is.
Gene almost bought the Orioles. That's chapter one. I had his brother on the show. Tony Fugit is running for
Yes.
office over in a second, right?
Yes.
Tony was on the show 2 weeks ago, and we bring up Adam Jones and Audie, and I follow Adam, and I've seen all the delicious Kobe's meats he's getting, and like all of that. The Orioles could have kept him around and put him on the wall for a year or two and paid him a couple $1 million. And as I said to Luke earlier, if you're a fan of minor league hockey, you're familiar with this, right? Like the Hershey Bears had two guys, a guy named Tim Tukey and a guy named Mitch Lamoureux, that played until they were 35 because they weren't going to make the NHL. They weren't that. They were career players for these franchises for 5, 6, 7 years because it was good business for them. It was good business for the Rochester Amherst to have Jody Gage play there because he couldn't make it with the Buffalo Sabres, and he's 31 years old. And you say, why is a 31-year-old guy playing minor league hockey? Well, we pay him $50,000 more to play because we like having a captain on our team. We like having grown-ups on our team. And in the case of Adam Jones, there would have been nothing to have him have 350 at-bats, have him be a good guy, have him be player coach. So I don't know. I'm making that up. But whatever he would have wanted to do here at the end, that's the way baseball would have humanely treated Rick Dempsey, Mike Flanagan, Mike Boddicker at the end many years ago. That it's not like that anymore. It's us against them. It's players, all that stuff. But then there comes he's 37 years old, and I'm 53, and I haven't bought a ticket in 17 years. And they said, screw you for the rest of your life. We don't want you to ever come back again.
That's bad.
And doing that to a 37-year-old guy with $100 million that is part of the only alumni that this franchise is going to have for the next 15 years, right? I mean, I don't know that they're bringing Chris Tillman back or they're bringing Wei and Chen back or, Chris Davis is not coming back to Dolphin. I mean, Manny Machado is not coming back. He is all they got. That's the amazing thing to me. I'm not the only fan. I'm the only fan with a radio station that did sports radio that they could treat like garbage 17 years ago. But he's the only one that they have like him. And to have him bad vibing at 37 with $100 million in the bank, he doesn't ever need to come here and doff his cap. He doesn't need them at all.
Well, again, it speaks volumes about the franchise. Ideally, you want players, former players, to be advocates about the organization. You want them to talk glowingly about the organization. It's what the Ravens do. That they do that part of it right with the Ring of Honor and bringing back players and having the player of the game at the stadium. Those guys want to retire, or Baltimore Ravens. You look at a guy like Anquan Boldin. He played for the Cardinals for a lot longer than the Ravens, but he retires a Raven. I think that speaks volumes to the quality of the organization. It really does.
You think Joe Flacco will come back here and sit and doff his cap, and they will have a day for him when his day's done?
Joe's a different kind of a guy. Yeah, he's a different kind of a guy. But yeah, I expect Joe to come back, and I'm shocked he's still playing. I really am. I thought he'd be done after the contract expired, the big contract. But I'm surprised, and I'm grateful he's still playing. And I root for him.
Did I tell you I ran into Joe Douglas? I spent some time with Joe at the owners meetings. So I ran into Joe and his wife, and we're long friends. It was great. He hadn't seen my hair, so he liked my flow. He sent me several texts about my flow. But when I ran into Joe
doesn't have any flow. That's why.
So I ran into Joe Douglas at the same event that I got blown off by the owner of the team. And Joe Douglas, I said to Joe, I'm like, Flacco, like, still got a fire in his belly? He's like, you have no idea. He said, Joe comes in and sits in my office, and Joe wants to play. Joe wants to play well. Joe wants to practice. Joe wants to show up. Joe loves being a football player. Joe realizes there's going to be a long time in his life where he's not going to be a football player anymore.
Okay.
And he said Joe might play till he's 45. Like, he literally said that to me. He said Joe might be a guy that will play till he's 45 because he takes really good care of his body. He hasn't taken the same kinds of abuse, although the Kiko Alonso hit would be something. But when you talk about what these foundational people mean to the organization for the Ravens, right? Whether it's whenever Justin Tucker comes back at the end or when other bit players, Matt Burke, guys that were only here for 5 minutes. Calais Campbell's moving into that territory of being a guy. I mean, I'm trying to think of other guys that actually live here in the community, but we've had a lot of guys that Eugene Monroe lives here. Lots of players that spent time here live here, and you run into them when you're pumping gas,
Yeah, there's no question about it. So it's really good for the team, though, the younger guys to see these veterans come back, these retired players, and support the team. And you talked about Calais Campbell. No better man to have in your locker room than the Walter Payton Man of the Year. His influence in the locker room has got to be big. And there's another guy we root that he gets a Super Bowl, right? If he gets a Super Bowl, guess what? He's going to retire a Baltimore Raven. That'd be great for him as well as for the organization and most of all the community, because he does give back.
Quick question for you, because I was out having a few tilts with an old friend of mine, old sports writer friend of mine, and we got talking about Lamar. And after his third drink, he said to me, bottom line, do you think the Ravens are going to win a Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson? Do you think that's going to – because we were talking about his contract. We're talking about would we trade him? Would you trade him on Thursday and get 3 number ones if somebody wanted to take – I mean, literally, not that the Ravens are even entertaining anything like that, but if he's unsignable – I mean, if you've deemed him unsignable quietly, privately, for whatever, then you better be thinking about things. And if you don't think you're winning the Super Bowl this year or next year and you deem him unsignable, if you do, or you deem him, what is he going to be when he's 28 or 29 or 30? I'm not going to pay him $45 million of guaranteed money for his 30th birthday. Like, if Bisciotti feels that way, then all that would be said. But are you still buying that they're going to win a Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson?
I am. I saw him work out the other day. It was on the video and on Twitter, running up a hill like a rabbit. He is such a competitor. He just wants to win, and he wants to win badly. And he just doesn't want to win one Super Bowl, Nestor. When he says he wants multiple Super Bowls, understanding that it starts with the first one, you know what? That to me, that's worth everything. He's going to sacrifice. He's put in the work. He's put in the time, and I just hope the team is smart enough to figure out how to unlock his vast potential of talents. But can they win with him? Defense, running game, and you need a quarterback. He's not going to hurt you. Just look at last year. They're 8-3 with him. There would have been with that roster. There would have been probably the injuries. They may have been 2-6 without him. The guy is an amazing competitor, and for me, that fire in his belly, that's never going to go away. He's always going to have a chip on his shoulder, Nestor, because he was a 32nd overall pick in the 2017 draft.
Dennis Koulatsos is over at Coons Baltimore 4. He will be here on Thursday from 3 until 5, getting you ready with more draft talk. We'll continue to talk about all things Ravens and Adam Jones and Lamar Jackson and Eric DeCosta and all that good stuff. You can find Den over there. And of course, the text service will be humming here this week. As if you're on it, you know first, always. I had a great compliment on Twitter last week. How do you guys always know this stuff first? The WNST text service. Perfect. Den, I appreciate it. We'll see you on Thursday, okay?
Thank you, sir.
As well as Sunday morning, rebroadcast on Sunday morning, each and every Sunday. This former Sunday Sports Voice, now the Koulatsos Show, out on Twitter. I am Nestor. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking draft and Baltimore positive.